I will call the special finance meeting to order for March 21st, 2024. First item is the FY 2025 budget. So first thing I'm going to ask Ms. Kelly is if she's able to find the $17,250 that we just discussed for athletics in the general supplies. That's something we can move on.
It's not in what we were about to propose.
I was just asking, so being in finance right now, I just thought in lieu of manipulating the proposed positions that we have, the finance committee can recommend to not decrease any other positions that we talked about, but find it in smaller items in general supplies. That, again, if something was budgeted for $15,000, we do $14,500, and we could share that with the entire board after Ms. Kelly finds the $17,250. So it's a small amount of money in lieu of saying you're going to forsake one of the positions that we're trying to bring back. Procedurally, I think we're okay to do that. And I think if you charge Ms. Kelly with finding that, she can update the board, and we would still be able to present a tax cap compliant budget to the city as needed.
I have another thought too. Some of the vacant positions we're budgeting teacher-wise at like a bachelor's plus 15, or I'm sorry, a master's, kind of a mid-step, step 11. That's what we use as the budget, because it's kind of in the middle. Chances are there's going to be a newer staff member with less experience that could save money. So if we took somebody in on a step 3 with just a bachelor's, I just did the math, it's almost just under $17,000 savings right there. That's another option.
So you have a choice, I guess. You can go with
Sounds like
option A or option B. I would defer to Ms. Kelly's choice.
So do we need a motion for something like that? Would it be better to be more general and just put the I'm going to ask the question before I go into the motion, but the motion would be for the district to, within the final budget, find the funds for athletic at $17,000. Yes. So my motion will be that. Do I have to repeat it?
Second.
Please repeat the motion.
The motion will be for the district to go back and within the final approved budget, find $17,250 within the budget to fund the athletic needs.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Just wonder if we can get a final dollar amount before we move on to the next
I have a couple of handouts.
Just a procedural point where this is the finance committee,
Correct.
not the,
Yeah, so make sure
just to make sure that the
Nobody-
people that are voting are,
you're not voting.
Yeah.
Full board is next.
right, correct, just procedurally.
Thank you.
I'm thinking she might go into the detail about this first.
Oh, I had a general question.
Can we just?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I apologize.
All right. Go ahead.
So pretty much what we did since last Thursday's meeting, is we just came up with a plan to restore that 270,587 that was approved to go back to the FY25 operating budget. We met with Sarah Camus, Director of Special Ed, and kind of got her input. And she felt that the 3 teaching positions that we'd be able to restore with that amount of money were 2 high school special ed teachers as well as a middle school special ed teacher, with the remainder being put towards having the high school special ed secretary going to a year-round position at 7 hours a day. So that was our plan on how to put that 270,000 back into the budget.
Mrs. Stokes.
There's been discussion for years about that high school position being full-time, and I think it's been needed for a very long time, because a part-time position handling all that is very difficult. And I think where we have an audit, I think that's gonna be a really important position to keep for, like, to have as a full-time, so I'm glad it's there.
Mr. Bowen.
On the elementary school positions, sections that are being reduced, is there, what are the sections, or is it too early to tell which sections you'll be reducing?
Well, there's a preliminary plan, but procedurally, you need to approve a budget. Then I need to, per the contract, meet with the RFT president.
Gotcha.
Go through the plan and then start the process.
Thank you. That's what I need to know. Appreciate that.
Mr. Guzman.
So we lost nobody, correct? We saved everything by cutting the budget. The only thing we eliminated was vacant spots, correct? Or not?
No. 6 teachers.
6 teachers.
Mr. Bowen.
But just to clarify, I mean, to retirements or vacancies, there may be a possibility where it's not a physical person, it's just a position. That, as our superintendent previously just noted, is a process. So I asked the question from the government.
So just want to clarify, we didn't cut a teacher like the teacher's not gonna lose their job because of this, correct? We're not.
That's entirely incorrect. That's
Okay,
going
can you,
to happen.
all right, okay.
So six positions are being cut from this budget to be tax cap compliant. So on this sheet that you have before you, you see there's 2, 1, 1, right? That's 4 elementary positions. And at the high school, you see 1 for one department, another for another department, totaling 6 teaching positions that need to be carved out of the budget.
How many teachers do we have open positions in the district right now?
No elementary positions that are open, classroom teaching positions. Same thing with the department, we have mostly special education and paraprofessionals and a few specialty teachers.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Yep, I'm sorry, the question was, what do we have for openings? It's no elementary classroom positions, mostly special education and paraprofessionals with a smattering of specialty positions, like we've talked about in the past, psychologists, speech paths.
And are those unfilled because we can't find personnel?
Correct.
Mr. Pappas.
I know in the past, when we've had very lean budgets, I know when I was the vice chair and Mr. Lynch was the chair, we went and spoke with the mayor and the city manager, and we were very successful in preventing the cuts of positions. It might behoove us to have our leadership go and try to do the same thing. I know that City Council was very receptive to preventing cuts. I know that up until the time when I was the vice chair and we prevented those, we had lost, I believe it was 33 teaching positions over the previous 10 years because of the tax cap cuts. And the City Council agreed that it was time to stop that bloodletting positions. It was harming our kids. And I think it would be very beneficial if it's possible, maybe to have you meet with the mayor and the city manager and try to find some funding that they can add to our budget to try to prevent that.
The other item that I had my monthly meeting with the city manager, and it's still in the early stages, but we are exploring with all of our unions the opportunity of changing insurances. At Finance, you recall, that was a 25% increase to our insurance, which was roughly $2 million increase. That was beyond our control. So we've had initial meetings, presentations have happened, we're working through some data, and the city manager asked me to include a slide in our budget presentation that when we get to that point in time, we may have a little bit better idea if it's a possibility, but that we would show what that might look like, and if we could then ask them, as they're approving the budget, to maybe put some of that money back into our budget to bring back some of these positions. So I think both are viable options.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Can you go down a list of exactly what, because it's really hard to read right now, which positions are we cutting?
So right in the middle column,
Where it says central office recommendations?
Yep.
So nothing on the principal recommendations?
so we started with principal recommendations, and then we met and talked about needs and why we couldn't cut certain things. As you recall, the first time we talked about it, Sarah chose not to cut a behaviorist because to contract services for a behaviorist is 3 times the amount of what we have currently right now with a staff member on staff. So that's why that wasn't cut. So as you can see, the middle sections that are cuts are 2, 1, 1, so that's a total of 4 sections at the elementary school, right? 1 and 2, right, department needs at the high school.
Yeah, but the elementary, sorry.
Why is it, can I just, I just
go ahead.
don't understand, so why is it, what about the highlighted, it says 2 sped teachers, those will be transferred?
Those will be transfers, so no one's gonna lose a position there, we're gonna move people, because as Sarah showed the admin team, we have all of our caseloads, so she's gonna move some, so if I'm at the elementary level and I'm needed at the middle school, she's gonna fill an open position, so those are cuts, but they're currently open positions, and as we talked at the last meeting, the highlight means no one's losing a job because of that, because it's a vacant position. So you're moving one person that's currently in a role somewhere to somewhere else that's open, and you're actually able to cut that at the other school, okay?
So you're losing a total of 4 positions at the elementary and 2 positions at the high school,
That is correct.
and we don't know what those positions are.
We're gonna work with everyone to make sure, as Ms. Kelly said, there's still some variables with retirements and other things, so we're working with the RFT president on that.
But you're confirming that if we make this, if we pass this budget, somebody could lose their position?
Yes, the budget you need to present to the city council requires these cuts.
Not doing it.
Mr. Pappas.
Do we know if the high school has made course selections yet, and whether or not it is in fact a math or an English position that is needed to be cut versus maybe the science position?
That's the recommendation that came from Mr. Roy when we met. As you recall, I gave you a stack of paper about this big electronically, then in person when we met, and it had every course, right? So as we went through those courses and those section sizes, how we could collapse, a section of 5 and a section of 9, right? Then that would be one section, right? So that's what we've done.
Okay, but that's for, I was wondering about next year's
The
science.
courses have already been put, and so they're gonna have to do some of that on the back end, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Boyd.
I wasn't ready to make a motion, but there's more questions.
Mr. Cucinola.
So we're 3 months, give or take, to the end of the fiscal year for us. What is our projected leftover cash flow?
So we're not gonna know that till next month, but it's important to note that monies appropriated in this fiscal
Yep, I
year
know.
cannot be moved to next year.
Yeah, we had a long conversation on that, and then it would have to be purchased and provided to the school before June 30th, because July 1st starts, I think. But we don't even have a ballpark 3 months into the 3 months left of the year of where we would have
We said we were gonna
excess.
get that to the finance committee in April. Yep. We've been working really hard on this budget for next year.
Mr. Bellows.
And so, this is more for people that are listening. If we pass this budget, we will likely have to cut 6 positions, but we also won't be filling 6 unfilled positions. So we are cutting 12 positions, and we won't get those back. Class sizes won't magically get reduced. Services won't magically be improved. And 6 current employees likely will lose their job for us to be tax cap compliant. That's correct.
That's the decision you have to make tonight, yes.
Mrs. King.
Yeah, thank you. Have you figured into the tax cap, what the new tax cap is this year? And that should give us, what, a couple $1 million more?
So the budget that you have before you, like, if you approve this, that you'll get to that dollar amount, the 74 million and change, I don't have the exact number, but.
So
Sam
these
is
numbers
what
all
you said.
include the additional tax money? Or not? I don't,
Yep.
oh, they do?
Yes. because
So
right
it's an
to the
extra,
tax cap.
$2 million or so approximately,
It was, yeah, 1.9.
or 2.9,
One,
1.9?
1.996, just under 2 million more than last year.
Actually,
I'd rather send the budget over tax cap than cut a position.
so, I know you're gonna make a motion, but could we put these back in the budget and present that to the city council and go back forth with it in there?
So the city charter requires you to present a tax cap compliant budget. I think it was 3 years ago, we submitted a budget that was $7,700 over the tax cap. We were directed the next day to find $7,700.
Yeah, that number's right there.
Somebody else out there? Mr.
So, I was gonna, we are charged with a tax cap budget submission. That being said, that goes back to Mr. Pappas's, that's where you and the chair and the vice chair advocate at the budget proposals. This is what that impact is, and, you know, what it cost us these positions or whatnot, to try and, because, again, it would be a tax cap overrun. So we are charged with a tax cap budget. Not to say that we couldn't get it overridden, and that's with the advocacy of our constituents.
Just to add on to that, I mean, we're required to submit a budget that meets the tax cap. I mean, we can send a suggested budget as well for them to consider, but in the past, they just kind of throw that one away and then work on the tax cap compliant one and then add to it if they can. But our work isn't over tonight. I mean, we're gonna need to, I think it's gonna be a group effort with all of us. We're gonna need to start making some calls to our city councilors and convince them of the need to put some of these positions back in our budget and ask them to increase it. So I mean, don't feel like this is the end-all be-all budget, but we need to work on the city councilors to find some money to give to us. So that, you know, our work isn't done. No one wants to make these changes or these cuts, believe me, but unfortunately we have to.
Anything else? Any more discussion for
I'm just getting the final dollar amount.
Huh?
I'm just getting the final dollar amount. There we go. Make a motion to move to full board a tax cap compliant budget of $74,790,383.
Second.
motion made by Mr. Boyer, second by Mr. Command.
Roll call vote.
You don't vote. Any more discussion?
Oh, Lord.
So make sure you're on finance committee when you vote for this. No discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Guzman names.
I am.
Motion passes. All right, next item is public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Please state your name and address and keep your comments for 5 minutes, please.
Good evening, my name is Dan Saucier. I live at 2 Gerard Street here in Rochester. I've lived here my whole life. I also teach for the district. I've been here for 15 years. It's great to hear that you definitely want to try not to cut positions. I just want to make sure there's a couple of things that you're aware of that, as a teacher in the district, is where the reality is. Last year, or actually I looked last night, there were 25 certified vacant positions in the district currently. As Mr. Riccusi said, none of them are elementary or high school positions. They're varied scattered positions. You do have an elementary school without a certified PE teacher, an elementary school without a certified music teacher. We had to hire a new 4th grade teacher at my school last year. We had 2 people apply for that job. McClellan had a kindergarten class that never got filled. They lost that section. It's not in this year's budget. So McClellan already is down to 2 sections of kindergarten, and you're looking to eliminate 2 more teachers out of that building. McClellan also had to send a teacher to William Allen because there was a 1st grade over there that didn't get a teacher to apply to fill a job over there. If we have to RIF these 4 elementary teachers and these high school teachers, because Kyle has to send out RIF notices by the end of April, those teachers are going to go to other districts. So if we're able to work with the city and get that money back in June, that's great, but there's a likelihood that we're going to end up with the position still being vacant because the people that need to apply are going to go somewhere else by the time we get there. So I just really hope we can do our due diligence to really work together and try to figure out some solution, because as we know, education's tough right now. There's not a lot of people knocking down the door in New Hampshire to apply for jobs. So thank you for your time, and I really appreciate the work you guys are putting forward.
Thank you. Can you just please state your name and address?
Laura Haney, 34 Park Street.
Thank you.
Also a special ed teacher here in Rochester. And I was also a former city council member. And I strongly suggest that you do talk about an alternative budget, have serious conversations with those city council members. They do have money in their unfunded designated account that you could look at and say, hey, we really need this. As Mr. Saucier said, those 6 positions are filled. These are teachers that are going to go elsewhere. You have to send out your RIF notices, I think, April 15th. So if you're doing a budget and they get their RIF notices, they're going to go someplace else. You can go to Barrington and get much more money. And these are dedicated teachers that are here. Special ed, getting rid of special ed positions and not filling those positions. I'm a special ed teacher. We're overloaded, we're inundated with kids. We have, currently, I think on the list is to get rid of 2 5th grade teachers on that list, one at Chamberlain and one in East Rochester. And if you look at those 4th grade numbers, they're high. And if you move those kids from School Street to Chamberlain, you're going to have high numbers in those 5th grade classes. And if you have kids that are coming in or transferring in, you're going to have no place to put those 5th grade classes. So you have a lot of decisions to make, but I strongly suggest go talk to those city councils, talk to your mayor, because it's going to be very, next year, this year's been tough without having those positions filled that are unfilled. And moving into next year, cutting positions and not filling positions that you have, it's going to be really tough for these teachers. And you want to support us, you sent out a survey, what can we do to retain and keep teachers? This isn't it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Carissa Ryan. I live at 737 Portland Street. I'm gonna try to not cry. I sent an email last night to everyone on the school board. As an employee of the Rochester School Department, a taxpayer, and the mother of a child that's about to enter the public school system, this is not acceptable. The discussion that even one position would be cut in this district currently is absurd. My coworkers and I and many more people that are here bust our butts every day to do the best we possibly can with what we have for our children. 4 years ago when we went remote, we did everything we could. We set the stage for the rest of the country, and the vice president even made statements saying teachers in New Hampshire were the ones setting everybody up for success with remote education. 4 years later, this is what we're getting. We are having so many people leave this district. Meeting after meeting, I've watched at home as I've seen my colleagues' names read off. Retirements, I get it, it happens. But there's an alarming number of people leaving this district who are talented, educated educators who care deeply about our children. The idea that positions being cut is even discussed, I'm so worried. I'm so worried for the children that I teach right now. I'm worried for my own daughter and her peers. I'm worried for the kids that are even older than my daughter, who are in middle school, high school, whatever. Because who is going to be around to mentor the kids that are in college right now that might be deciding to become teachers? In our district, no one. Every day we're asked to be flexible and think outside the box. It's not flexible outside the box anymore, it's the ordinary. Staff members are constantly covering open duties, leaves, and day-to-day substituting. In my own buildings, teachers have been asked to cover maternity leaves and family leaves for colleagues multiple times over the past couple years, and they do it. They do it because they care about the kids, they care about this city. It is a slap in the face that we're even having a discussion about cutting one person's job. I can't stress to this board or the people in this room enough how essential counselors, social workers, speech, OT, all the related services are to our students' success. We can't see these open positions as just being a smattering of open positions. This smattering is detrimental to our children. I hope that our school board will be able to communicate effectively with the city council and find funding for these positions. Thank you for your time, and I'm sorry I'm about to cry.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else from the public looking to address the board? Alright, that's none, we'll close public comment and then move on to other. I do have some motions I gotta make under other for finance, so.
Can I just add one thing?
He had his hand up. Go ahead. Respond.
When you have it, or whoever could, give me the section of the city charter that says the school board must have a tax cap compliant budget, or is it the city must have a tax cap compliant budget? Because I can't find it right now. Even under the school board, nowhere does it say that we have to be tax compliant. So is it the city has to be tax compliant, and we are governed by the city to give them one? Or does it state the school board must be?
We're a department of the city, so I guess I could ask Mr. O'Rourke or Ms. Ambrose, but that's the directive I've been given, and that's, even when I was the assistant superintendent, that was the directive that Mr. Hopkins had every year.
Yeah, I'm just asking where.
Ms. Stokes.
I would just say that anybody that's speaking here it would benefit for city council to also hear what's being said. We don't get to make that decision, and I don't think anybody on this board would ever want to cut any position. Our hands are tied. I think that, you know, as much as we have a budget, we get our budget directed to us by city council. So I think anybody that's listening, anybody that's here, let your city council members also know, because I think unfortunately our budget's directed from them, and I think we have some really dedicated people that are really speaking eloquently, and I think the city council would benefit from hearing that as well. So I would encourage anybody to go speak before city council and let them know that we also don't want to cut those positions. Unfortunately, we're in a spot where we have to present a tax cap budget. So I think nobody here would vote to eliminate a position if we had a budget that didn't force it. So.
Ms. McGowan?
What is the date that we have to propose this to city council?
March 25th.
Mr.
So
White?
based on that March 25th, and back to the conversation that we had about you approaching the mayor
Hey,
and city council,
I'm gonna call the mayor tomorrow morning, and I'm gonna go find the city manager tomorrow as well. I have that luxury to be in the area. To try to have a conversation with both of them tomorrow. Mr. Patrick?
I think one message that has worked in the past is, and for those of you who have only ever lived in a city in New Hampshire, cities are at a disadvantage when it comes to this, because if you live in a town and you vote on town meeting day, if your budget gets voted down, you get to basically you have the last year's budget with contracted increases automatically. So towns don't lose staff like we do. Because we're limited to whatever the city council gives us. So it's worth bringing up that inequity of cities versus towns. So towns, Barrington doesn't have a city council to approve their budget. So they get their increases automatically as part of the town meeting format. And we have to beg, borrow, and steal to get what we can for our budget.
No, I worked in Northwood, I remember it's the town votes on it, so it can be Mrs. Keynes and Mrs. Harrington.
I spent quite a few years on the city council, about 30. And there were very few years when either the superintendent or chair of the board or a couple of members of the board didn't come in and advocate before the city council to increase whatever was submitted to them, because they knew it wasn't appropriate and didn't work. So, you know, the council is not a blank wall. They're open and subject to being solicited as well. And very often, and I think our former council member there will verify that many, many, many times, and you did as well, Matt, that the bottom line changes. Because they've got a ton of money sitting in an account, so.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Mr. Pappas said earlier, the chair and the vice chair in the past have gone to every city council meeting, every city workshop meeting from now till June. That's what we did every year. Every year.
Kyle, is there any chance tomorrow you can send me all 12 positions and the exact dollar amount that they cost? Basically on an Excel sheet, so I can make sure I quote to the city council when I go to talk to them, the exact dollar amount we're gonna need if we were to go over.
I think that's right here, right? This Kelly, it's right here.
Yeah, it's on the middle
Okay,
column.
so that's 100%. We would need 1,061,076. All right, I just wanted to make sure I had the right numbers before I go speaking.
Is that it? Okay, I'm gonna make some motions to, I'm gonna make a motion to move the FY25 bonded capital improvement program in the amount of $1,120,000 to the full board.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Bollier, I made the motion, Mr. Bollier second, and it passes. I'm gonna make the motion, the board approve the FY25 cash capital improvement program in the amount of $377,000. Make that motion to move to the full board.
Second.
Mr. Bollier second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I'm gonna make the motion to the full board, approve the FY25 food service budget in the amount of $2,150,000.
Second.
Mr. Bollier seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I'm gonna make a motion to move to the full board the FY '25 grants budget in the amount of $4,251,000.
Second.
Mr. Boyer seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Then move to the motions to the full board. Do we have anything else? Anyone want to make that motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Boyer, second by Mr. Kamari. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.